double tariffs on steel and aluminum, hiking the tax from 25% to 50%.
We don't want America's future to be built with shoddy steel from Shanghai. We want
Canada to work together to boost internal trade in the face of instability.
This is the moment North America died, and no one saw it coming. While you were distracted by social media drama, Canada just made a decision that will reshape the entire world. They're done. Done with America, done with 80 years of partnership, done pretending their closest ally won't stab them in the back. One tariff announcement, one tweet, and suddenly, the longest undefended border on Earth became a wall of mistrust. What happened next will change everything you thought you knew about power, loyalty, and the price of betrayal. Here's what they don't want you to know. Canada sends 75% of its defense spending straight to America. That's billions of dollars flowing south every single year. But now, that tap is being turned off. And it's not just defense. Half of all U.S. steel imports come from Canada. Your car, your buildings, your infrastructure. They're built with Canadian materials. But as of right now, those shipments are about to completely stop. This isn't a negotiation anymore, it's a divorce. And like all messy breakups, there are no winners, only survivors. Let me take you behind closed doors to the moment everything changed. Picture this. It's April 2nd. Canadian steel executives are sitting in boardrooms across the country when news breaks. Trump just slapped a 25% tariff on their exports. Bad, but survivable. These are tough people. They've weathered recessions, trade disputes, market crashes. They held emergency calls, paused shipments, tightened their belts. They thought they could wait it out. Then came the announcement that shattered 80 years of trust. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel. No warning, no phone call. No diplomatic courtesy, just economic warfare disguised as policy, delivered through a press conference like he was announcing a reality TV show. I've covered trade wars, currency crises, economic collapses for over a decade. I've seen countries go to war over less than this, but I've never seen anything like what happened next. When your biggest ally becomes your biggest threat overnight, most nations either fight back or cave in. Canada did neither. Canada got smart. While Trump was rage tweeting at 3 a.m. about unfair trade, Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney wasn't tweeting back. He wasn't holding press conferences. He wasn't making threats. He was booking flights, not to Washington, to Paris, to London, to Brussels. And when he got there, he didn't ask for meetings. He didn't beg for help. He made a declaration that would reshape the global order. We are the most European of non-European countries. This is the story of how America lost its most loyal friend, how that friend decided to build something bigger, stronger, and more stable without them. And how one man's ego just accidentally created America's worst nightmare, a world where they're no longer needed. Think of this like a toxic relationship. You know the type. One person keeps pushing boundaries, breaking promises, expecting loyalty while giving none back. Eventually, the other person stops fighting and starts planning their exit. That's exactly what happened here. Canada didn't get angry. They got strategic. While Trump was playing checkers with tariffs, Carney was playing chess with continents. Here's where this gets really interesting. Mark Carney isn't just any politician. He's an Oxford-educated economist, former governor of the Bank of England, former governor of the Bank of Canada. This man has managed currencies during global financial crises. He doesn't make emotional decisions. He makes calculated ones that reshape economies. When Carney said those words in his first major international address, he wasn't just talking about trade disputes or diplomatic tensions. He was announcing a complete geopolitical realignment that most Americans still don't understand. Think about the contrast here. On one side, you have Trump, unpredictable, emotional, changing policy through social media rants. On the other side, you have Carney, methodical, strategic, building alliances through quiet diplomacy. Enter the Rearm Europe project. $900 billion to build European defense independence. Not just from Russia, from America too. And guess who's first in line to join? Canada. For 7 decades, NATO allies bought American weapons, followed American strategies, depended on American protection. The US made trillions from this arrangement, while allies became dependent customers. But under Trump, that trust didn't just crack, it exploded. Picture this psychology. You're spending 75% of your defense budget, billions of dollars every year, buying weapons from someone who's actively trying to destroy your economy. It's like paying protection money to your own bully. Here's what mainstream media won't tell you because it challenges everything they believe about American supremacy. This isn't about Canada being anti-American. This is about survival in a world where your closest ally has become unreliable. You can't build national security on the foundation of someone else's mood swings. You can't plan for decades when your partner changes strategy every news cycle. So while Trump was tweeting about America first, Carney was building Europe Plus One, a defense alliance based on predictability, mutual respect, and shared democratic values. But here's the genius of Carney's approach. He's not burning bridges. He's building new ones while the old ones collapse from neglect. When Trump inevitably leaves office, Canada will have options. Leverage, independence. This isn't reactive politics. This is strategic planning at the highest level. While America was having a temper tantrum, Canada was positioning itself for a post-American world. Let me paint you a picture of what's actually happening on the ground right now. Catherine Cobden, one of Canada's top steel executives, called Trump's tariff announcement a punch in the gut. But here's the part that should terrify every American. This isn't theory anymore. Half of everything Canada produces in steel will no longer be shipped to the US. That's not a negotiating position. That's not a threat. That's happening right now today as you're watching this video. Let me break down what this actually means in your daily life. Car factories in Michigan that have relied on Canadian steel for decades. They're scrambling to find alternatives that cost more and take longer to deliver. Construction projects in Ohio worth billions, delayed indefinitely. Aerospace plants in Missouri building your commercial aircraft and military jets, facing critical material shortages. This reminds me of the supply chain chaos we saw during COVID, except this time it's completely self-inflicted. We're watching a controlled demolition of North American economic integration, and the person holding the detonator is tweeting about winning. But here's the part that should keep you awake at night. Even if these tariffs get reversed tomorrow, even if Trump wakes up and decides to play nice, the damage is permanent. In global trade, trust once broken is nearly impossible to rebuild. Cobden wasn't being dramatic when she said that. She was being coldly realistic. When you burn bridges with your biggest customer, you don't just lose current sales, you lose credibility with every future customer watching. I visited a steel plant in Hamilton, Ontario last month. Talked to workers who've been there for 20-30 years. These aren't abstract statistics we're talking about. These are families, communities, entire regions built around supplying American industries. And here's what really gets me. These workers believed in the partnership. They invested their lives, their careers, their futures in the idea that America and Canada were allies, partners, friends. Now they're being told their jobs don't matter because of political theater. Their loyalty means nothing because Trump needs to look tough for his base. While Trump was getting applause for protecting American steel, he was actually destroying the supply chains that make American steel competitive. It's like celebrating while you're cutting off your own oxygen supply. Here's what most people don't understand about modern manufacturing. It's not 1950. You can't just flip a switch and replace decades of integrated supply relationships. Canadian steel isn't just cheap. It's specifically designed for American systems, American standards, American needs. This steel is tested, certified, integrated into supply chains that took generations to perfect. Replacing it with imports from Asia or Eastern Europe isn't just more expensive. It's a complete gamble with national infrastructure. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. This crisis isn't coming from economic necessity. It's coming from political vanity. Trump is playing to crowds while real businesses bleed, real workers lose jobs, real families pay the price for his showmanship. This is what collapse looks like. Not explosions or invasions, just the slow, methodical destruction of relationships that took generations to build. And the crazy part? This affects you directly. Higher prices for cars, construction, infrastructure, supply shortages, economic instability. All because one man decided loyalty was weakness and partnership was for losers. But here's where this story gets really scary, and why this affects every single person watching this video. Canada's pivot isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a larger pattern that's reshaping the entire global order. When America becomes unreliable, allies don't just sit around waiting for things to get better. They adapt. They build new partnerships. They create new systems. They move on. The world order that America dominated for 80 years, the system that made America the global superpower, it's being rebuilt without America at the center. And most Americans have no idea it's happening. Think about the message this sends to every other ally. If Canada, literally America's neighbor, sharing the longest undefended border on Earth, connected by family, culture, and history. If Canada can't trust the US, who can? South Korea, watching this, is quietly expanding trade relationships with China. Japan is deepening ties with Southeast Asia. Germany is building energy partnerships that bypass American influence entirely. I've been studying geopolitics for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Usually, when empires decline, it's because of external threats, wars, economic competition, technological disruption. This time, it's completely self-inflicted. History is full of superpowers that forgot how to treat their friends. The British Empire thought it could abuse its colonies forever. The Soviet Union thought it could control its satellites through fear. They all thought they were too big to fail. They were all wrong. But here's what makes this different. For the first time in history, there are viable alternatives to American leadership. China's Belt and Road Initiative, the European Union's strategic autonomy, regional partnerships that don't need American approval. While America was having political drama, the rest of the world was building the future. And now, they're inviting America's former allies to join them. Canada's pivot to Europe isn't just about trade or defense. It's about values, democratic values, environmental responsibility, international law, things that used to be called American values until America abandoned them. Here's what nobody wants to admit because it challenges everything we've been told about American exceptionalism. Maybe the world doesn't need America as much as America needs the world. For decades, America's strategy was simple. Make everyone else dependent on American markets, American technology, American security. But dependency works both ways. And now that other options exist, that strategy is backfiring spectacularly. The multipolar world isn't coming, it's here. And America's choice isn't whether to accept it or not. America's choice is whether to be part of it or watch from the sidelines. NAFTA wasn't perfect. No trade deal ever is. But it created something unprecedented in human history. Seamless economic integration across an entire continent. Goods, services, people, ideas flowing freely across borders like they were just lines on a map. That system took 40 years to build. Thousands of negotiations, millions of relationships, billions of dollars in infrastructure. And it's being destroyed in real time by someone who thinks trade wars are easy to win. Drive through Detroit and Windsor, fly over the Niagara region, walk through the Pacific Northwest. These aren't just border areas. They're single economic zones that happen to be split by an invisible line. My own family illustrates this. My cousin works for a company in Buffalo that processes materials from Toronto. My uncle's construction business depends on Canadian lumber. My neighbor's daughter goes to university in Montreal. This isn't abstract policy, this is how millions of people actually live. And all of that is being sacrificed for what? Political theater, campaign promises, the ego of one man who can't admit when he's wrong. But here's the irony that should make every American angry. While Trump was promising to make America great again, he's actually making America alone again. And in a connected world, alone means weak. When Carney said those words, he wasn't being dramatic. He was stating a fact that most Americans still don't understand. The world has moved on. The world is reorganizing itself around new principles, new partnerships, new power centers. Europe is rearming. Asia is integrating. Africa is unifying. And America is building walls and burning bridges. Here's what nobody wants to admit because it's too painful. Maybe this is what America actually wanted. Maybe the isolation, the conflict, the constant drama. Maybe that's the point. Because if you can't compete on merit, you can at least cause chaos. But chaos is a strategy that only works for so long. Eventually, the world gets tired of the drama and builds something better without you. And that's exactly what's happening. In just 5 years, we've seen the creation of new trade blocs, new defense partnerships, new technological alliances that don't include America. The speed of this realignment is historically unprecedented. This isn't just about Canada. This isn't just about trade. This is about what happens when power forgets that it exists to serve people, not the other way around. When strength becomes weakness, when allies become enemies, when pride becomes destruction. The breakup of North America isn't coming. It's here, it's happening right now, today, while most Americans are distracted by social media drama and political theater. And the person holding the hammer, the person who shattered 80 years of partnership with a single tweet, is the same person who promised to make everything great again. What happens next will determine whether America learns from this moment, adapts to a changing world, and rebuilds the trust it's destroyed, or doubles down on the path to isolation, irrelevance, and decline. The choice is still ours. But the window is closing fast. What you just witnessed is the end of an era, the end of American dominance, the end of North American unity. But this is only the beginning of the story, because while America was fighting with its closest ally, China was quietly building something that will shock you. A global alliance system designed to replace American leadership entirely. The moves they're making right now, the partnerships, the investments, the strategic positioning, it's all part of a plan that most Americans don't even know exists. In our next video, we're diving deep into China's master plan to exploit this chaos, how they're using America's isolation to build their own empire, and why what happens in the next 2 years will determine whether America remains a superpower or becomes a cautionary tale. Like this video if you want to understand how the world really works behind the headlines. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this story is far from over, and what comes next will determine your future. And drop a comment right now. Do you think America can win back Canada's trust? Or is this breakup permanent? I'm reading every single response because your perspective matters in understanding where this goes next. Remember, in geopolitics, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And right now, America's interests are becoming very lonely.